If I don't use a mic, is this going to work? Yeah. Okay, great. Hey, Dom, I was looking for you guys. Okay, I'll stop sweating now, okay? I'm sweating because I'm in Savannah. Oh my goodness, I'm dripping. Wouldn't it be perfect? I come here and speak about Ketopia, and I've been in Israel, and I swear I was there for 5.5 days. I had a breakfast meeting every morning, a lunch meeting every day, and a dinner meeting every night, and I just barely fit into my clothes, and we're going to talk about Ketopia. I'm not as disciplined as Dom. I've been with him and watched him eat. I'm not that guy. I just eat. If it's there, I eat it. So good to be here. I'm joined with my mom today, who's a big part of my life. You know Mom is here when I wake up in my hotel room just totally jet lagged this morning, and her and the pastor's wife are praying over me. So I'm here. So I'm blessed today because of that. I'm also joined with my inspiration, my daughter Marin, who's here. So, who I might add has been on the program for 2 weeks now. She's been in ketosis for 2 weeks, and she is getting body karate. And Marin, stand up and show that stuff a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And always a privilege to work alongside with Kent and Krista and Jim and Shally and so many people here from Canada. And Ann, where's Ann?
She is literally walking in. She went to go get something.
Okay, just a lot of my friends that are here. Michelle is here and the whole group. It's just fun to be with friends. Oh my goodness. So everybody's from all over the place. If it takes me a while to warm up this morning, Kathy, who's here as well, takes me a while to warm up, then forgive me because it's a little bit of brain fog of the jet lag. First of all, it's a privilege to be here. I don't normally just think too much when I speak. I try to just let it be from what I learn, what I gain, what I experience, and hopefully what I can share in terms of inspiration. I don't like the word motivation too much. I don't dislike the word motivation. I just think that inspiration supersedes motivation. I think a person who is inspired needs no motivation. Motivation perhaps is for the uninspired. And so our company is about really understanding the business fundamentals and applying business fundamentals and having something bigger than the fundamentals associated, and I would call that inspiration. It's when you move beyond the norm. It's when you can't be stopped. If you watch sports and you hear the commentators talk about a particular athlete, and this one athlete is all of a sudden in the zone, is what they would call it, and then all of a sudden the commentator might say these words: that player right now is inspired. And when you think of that context, inspired could mean can't be stopped. And imagine if we could all be inspired, if we could all understand what it takes to be inspired, where we can't be stopped. But instead, we look at little windows of our lives when we were inspired. I think of the windows of my life when I know I was inspired. The first window I can think of is when I was 15 and a half years old. And I was going to get my car, and I had a crush on this girl. Her name was Linda. And I wasn't the most academic guy in school. Okay, I played sports. I liked to play sports, but I wasn't very smart. And or academic would be probably a better word. And I went to driver's ed because I was going to get my driver's license to take Linda on a date in my new car. And I was the first one to class, last one to leave. I was a teacher's pet. I was a teacher's assistant. I helped everybody. I got an A+ in one class. And I remember during that window of my life, I walked around school like I was a scholar, you know. And there was something about my energy that didn't need an alarm clock to wake up, you know, just couldn't go to sleep because I was so excited for the next day. Because during that time, I was inspired to A, buy the car, B, get the driver's license, C, get with Linda. Okay, A and B happened. Okay, C didn't quite come to fulfillment. But it's funny when we think of little times. Think of the time you bought your first house, or when you fell in love and sleep was optional, and you would walk and it didn't matter because you were inspired. And why do those have to be little windows? Why can they not be a prolonged experience of our life? So this company is one that really understands the importance of inspiration in our lives and how to create it individually and in our businesses, how to be inspired. So having said that, I was born and raised in Southern California, raised by a very strong single mom who worked 2 and 3 jobs, and who was really strict and could kick the crap out of us even when we were twice her size. You know, she was, I was always amazed because we loved to play sports, as I mentioned, football, baseball, basketball, gloves, cleats, hats, you name it. We needed all those things, and somehow she provided those things. I still to this day, she's my hero. when I look for inspiration, I look for an example. Mama's been that person, and I just think that I'm very blessed to have been mentored by such a strong And the mentoring didn't stop there. I have my beautiful daughter, Marin, who has been special in my life, who's been mentoring me ever since. I think there's a lot of roads I could have taken in my life and in my career, but instead I'm here today with you to share this particular message. And I credit Marin for this company. She's our inspirational founder. So Marin, thank you so much. Outside of that, I came to share a brief message with you and hopefully kick the meeting off in such a way that the vision is loud and clear in your mind and your hearts and your soul, that you want to go through the steps of today that they're going to take us through. We're very privileged to have the inspiration behind this beautiful technology, one of the great minds in this field, Dr. Dominic D'Agostino, PhD, and his beautiful wife, who I got the privilege to hang out with for a couple days, and boy does he, I think he's going to live to be about 200 years old. Boy does he live the message that he speaks, and great example of this technology, and he'll have some great scientific information and backing to what we're talking about here today. In addition to that, brought a little goodie. I'm trying to think of how to use it today, but I got a whole bunch of the Keto Booster sprays here. They took a little while to make, apparently, but got a bunch of these little sprays, and we'll think of a fun way to use these today with everybody. So, my career. When I first started in this industry, I was blessed to, I kind of had more of a music/video background. I like to do videos. It's one of the things I enjoy doing. And I got a call from a company called Nu Skin, which was a $1 billion company, and they asked me if I'd come in and do videos. And that's how I started, or was exploited to this industry. My first impression of this industry wasn't all that impressive, to be honest with you. I remember when they first asked me, I told them I was going to school to get a real job. That was my answer when they asked me to come and work. Needless to say, I watched that company become legit and credible and a force within the business community. After that, I got recruited away to work with a company called New Ways, and New Ways also became a $1 billion company. New Ways was the company that started preaching the message, be careful what you put on your skin, because your skin is the largest breathing organ. So be careful what you're putting on your skin. And that was a great message. They had a lot of evidence, a lot of science, a lot of proof, and that company also went. That's where I probably cut my teeth, made the most mistakes in my career, but got to learn a lot of great things hands-on. We went to many countries, 41 countries in that company. After that, I was still working there, and I got recruited away to a company called Young Living Essential Oils. Anybody heard of Young Living Essential Oils? Yeah. It's the largest essential oil company in the world. Today, they're a $1 billion company. And I didn't even know what an essential oil was, to be honest with you. I'll never forget the first day on the job. I was a new CEO, and I wanted to be a CEO not because I was CEO material at that point. It's because I didn't want my creativity subject to a CEO with no vision. So I just said, I'm going to learn it. I'll figure it out on the job. And made a lot of mistakes and figured it out on the job, and I'm still learning on the job. And the first day on the job, I walked in, this lady comes walking in, and she's got, I have an essential oil in my pocket, I always have one. And she walks in, and she's got this really tight, kind of a sexy, what do you call these things, ladies?
Tube top.
Like a tube top, the kind that just roll, whatever it was, okay? But it was like a tube top, all right? And she walked in, and I'm like, oh my, and she was really fit, really beautiful, and she's holding an oil, and she sticks it in her belly button with the lid off, and this isn't science, Dom, so just sort of, she sticks it in her belly button, and she goes, and I'm like, oh my, what is she doing with that oil? And she goes, this oil's not good, and she hands it to me, and I'm like, okay, and I walk back into customer service, and I'm like, guys, it's my first day on the job. Am I being punked right now? I mean, I thought there was a camera, And so they said, no, the replacement oils are in this cupboard. Grab an oil, grab a lid, etc. So they had bottles, oils, and lids. So because I was young and I like to humor myself a little bit, and I wasn't pretending to know anything I didn't know, by the way, I put a new lid on her bottle. Just grabbed a lid. So I walked back out, and I wanted to test the belly button theory. So I gave it back to her, and she takes the lid off, and she sticks it back in her belly button, and she goes, yes. lids. And I went, oh my, wow. I think I'm getting the hang of this one, you know. We had the best lids in the industry as well. So from there, I went on to start my own company. I became a food advocate. You know, if God made it, eat it. If man made it, moderation or leave it alone. And think about, let food be your medicine, let medicine be your food, that raw food perhaps is the only medicine that works 100% of the time for 100% of the people. That's a general thought. So I kind of like that because I didn't want to get in the wars of, you know, my superfruit ORAC is higher than yours, and oh, my coffee has more fungus, or my herbs were grown higher on the mountain than yours. I just didn't want to get involved in that stuff. My lavender is better than you. It's lavender. Who fights over lavender? You know, it takes a rare individual to find a fight over lavender. So I thought of, you know, food. So this company we called it the Brain Garden. It was food. It was called Pulse. And Pulse revealed the idea is, why does a carrot look like an eye when you slice a carrot? And we know that carrots are good for the eyes. By the way, there's a Nobel Prize on carrots in the eyes. Why is a walnut a replica of your brain? But yet we know walnuts now are loaded with the essential fatty acids that feed the brain. Yeah. Why is a tomato a replica of your heart? By the way, 15 years ago when I shared this stuff, people thought I was crazy. Go to WebMD now. They have pictures of these now. 15 years later, okay, that nature is nutritionally complicated, perhaps, so we don't have to be. And therefore, health is a habit, not an event. And our society has made health an event. And so I kind of got into that. I like that idea that, hey, you don't like this ingredient? Go pray about it. I'm not going to fight over it, okay? I like that idea. So we started the Brain Garden. The Brain Garden made a product called Pulse. And by the way, it was 26 raw foods that fit the criteria of the whole body. The carrots and walnuts and blah, 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 right? So that product did well. That company went public. My daughter was growing up, and to make a long story short, I chose to be with her a little more and retired at a pretty young age and spent some time. Now, the funny thing about this retirement thing, it's completely overrated, because my whole career I had preached earning money and having freedom. Money and freedom. And that all sounds good to everybody. I know it sounds great, but for me, I just wasn't ready for money and freedom, you know. You can tell when a person who was raised pretty humble, you know, gets money, they go shopping and they're like, I'll take two of these, I'll take two. And they're like, why do you want two? I mean, so you go into my house and it looked like the Noah's Ark of furniture, you know, everything was twos, you know, I just would buy two. And you just go through a phase. I bought the car and the house and all the things that I wanted in my life, but I learned that money doesn't cure, it exposes. If you're not happy with money, you won't be happy with it. Money is neutral. It makes good people perhaps better. It might make bad people perhaps worse. But I believe in what finally drives me is, because I was raised humble, you have to overcome the conversation of money. Because me growing up, community was the currency for me. This was the money. This was the value for me growing up. And once that's there with you, it's really difficult to get rid of it. I mean, that's just who I am. I love people. So money for me, what now drives me and inspires me in the money conversation, is money is there to serve humanity and not vice versa. And that wakes me up and gets me going, that we can help others succeed. Last year alone, we paid over $30 million to our people, and I'm proud of that. You know, in the last couple of years, we've gone to 12 million to 70 million in sales, and we're a publicly traded company. And by the way, yes, we are a business that does everything it can to practice the fundamentals. Some days better than others, okay? And so that's kind of what we do. And so after this retirement, somebody said to me, Ron, you seem miserable. You have all this money and time, but you're in your pajamas all day long, you know? And I kind of was like playing golf and tennis and doing these things, and all of a sudden I'm just in my pajamas watching Oprah one day and crying, you know. I'm just, oh, she's so beautiful, you know. And I'm just like, what am I doing with my life? And I just remember picking up the phone one day. This is no lie. I picked up the phone just to see if it still had a dial tone. And you know, when your phone is, you know, used to ringing 80 times a day and then it's down to 0, that's an interesting transition for one. So somebody suggested I do a little personal development. And I remember thinking to myself, what is personal development? Because I didn't think I needed it, which, by the way, is the first sign that you're ready. I don't need personal development. And I think I resisted personal development because of that motivation thing. I'd seen a few motivational speakers, and they would read quotes from a book, and people would get goosebumps. And I'm like, wait a minute. Anybody can read those quotes, but to embody those quotes is a whole nother thing. Energy doesn't lie. You just feel it or you don't. And so I just kind of said, no, I don't want the books and tapes in the back of the room and the motivation. I just didn't want any of that. So I just said, no, I don't want to do it. They said, Ron, this training is 4 months long. You go to Southern California, it's 4 months, there's no books, there's no tapes, and you can't take notes. And I'm like, I'm in. I mean, that was like my language, you know. I'm like, I'll go. Thinking the beach, you know. So I get there, and I'll make a long story short, but I just got my behind kicked every day for about 3 weeks. Because I had become a product of my environment. I was hardwired. I was talking about my success story. I mean, I could do it in my sleep. And they were just going, you know, when you're ready to kind of move on to the next, let us know because you're living in the past. And so after a few months, 4 months later, I was back. I was just back to being a kid again, just who I really am. And when you ask a child what they want to be when they grow up, they say anything because they can. It's my belief that when a child walks into the room, the child owns the room, period. You know, the whole idea of act like an adult sounds horrible to me. You know, I get my being through the perfection of children. I get my wisdom through the imperfection of us adults. And the idea of acting more like an adult, I'm not sure exactly what that means, truly. So I was back, and I'll never forget when the course was done. It was 4 months long, and I was ready. I was just ready to go take on the world, like do something really with purpose. I think success minus the purpose on some level feels like failure. You know, so I'm like, come on, I got to go do something. So I remember taking a drive, and I went, Mom, and you may or may not know this, I drove back to our childhood neighborhood in Ontario, California, and I sat in the government projects, and I brought a pistol. No, I'm kidding. I went back to the government projects, and I sat down, and I just reflected my life and how quick life goes by, how fast. And if you don't make decisions now, you may never make those important decisions in your life. And so I made some decisions that day. I was going to go back and start a company again because I knew how to do this industry. I just had gotten to be a product of this industry. What's your product? What's your compensation plan? I just don't want to do that anymore. You know, so I think in that day I discovered the best product in this industry. That day I discovered the only sustainable product in this industry. And it's sitting here today. Herein lies the best product in the industry. Herein lies the only sustainable product. Commodities come and go. Then what? Right? So I don't want to be the only industry when there's a war we shoot each other. We belong together. That's how it works. So anyhow, I declared that day I was going to go home and start a company called Forevergreen. I wasn't sure what it meant yet, but I just remember that's the company I wanted to start. I got home and I thought it through. And I went to a fine artist about 3 weeks later, and I walked into his gallery. Let me hit these lights right here. I walked into his gallery, because a lot of people want to know what Forevergreen actually means. Some think it's a green. Teamwork makes the dream work right there. So I walked into the gallery and I said to this fine artist, I said, and he thought I was a little nuts, I said, can you paint me 4 paintings of the same exact landscape, but make it all 4 seasons. But make sure you put all the elements of dirt and flowers and water and sky and clouds and mountains and flowers, and just put all the elements in there. And I asked him at the very end if he would stick 1 evergreen tree, just 1, in the far right-hand side of these paintings. Of course, driving here today was such a beautiful reminder of a lot. It was such a beautiful drive into this country club here this morning. Whatever time it is, okay, today. So the first thing you notice when you see these 4 paintings is you notice the earth underneath our feet. It never stops reinventing itself. It never stops recreating itself. It never stops. The question I ask people is, did you stop? Was there an event in your life that spun you off your track of your vision, your life, your purpose, your legacy, that caused you to become the cynic, that caused you to become the survivor? Survival skills are great to have, but they're not a great default. They're not a great strategy as a primary source of your life. Okay? So are you always reinventing yourself in a way that your best work is always your next work? You see, a lot of people, they talk about what they did, but very few people really are fixated on what they're doing. And this is a company that really believes in the present, that this is your best work ever. And people will say, what do you mean by best work? Well, here's how I would define that. Best work meaning what piece of technology has intimidated you that you've allowed yourself to stay away from? Learn it. What personal breakthrough would you have to allow for more success in your home, success in your life, in your business? What physical breakthrough it's holding you back as a physical ailment, whether obesity or laziness or lack of energy or spirituality or whatever that is in your life that's missing that will drive you to the next? You know, what road trip will you go on? We got people here today who have gone on some road trips, okay? What road trip have you failed to go on that might take you to the next? What has held you back? So your best work as your next is taking your game up a notch, even if it's a little bit every time. The finest athletes, that's all of them. They hire new coaches at the pinnacle of their careers because their best work is still their next. That's how they think, okay? So the second thing is you notice the evergreen tree, particularly let's look at fall. I think there's a next slide, is there or no? Nope, okay, go back. So fall, where the earth is letting go, you know? It's interesting with the earth, it doesn't partially let go, it lets go. And the funny thing about letting go is many of us are letting go of a belief or a business or a relationship. And here's the thing, either hang on or let go because no one wants part of you, okay? So it's the idea of letting go is letting go, okay, or hang on. Next is winter. When the world feels kind of cold, you know, maybe someone passed away, someone died. Maybe you took a bloodbath in business. Maybe you made a decision that publicly caused humiliation. And the world feels cold and you can't buy a break and you're like, oh, it ain't fair out there, blah, 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 blah. Get in line because we've all been there a time or two, okay? But in the midst of that, look at this. The evergreen tree here, boom, bright green, embracing every second of letting go. The evergreen tree here, bright green, even grew, embracing every second of cold, okay? Spring is when you start feeling hope. When you start seeing indicators in your business, indicators in your life, your family, your health, your spirituality. It's when you start seeing things, oh, my children are turning some corners, and you feel encouraged. Hope is priceless in today's world, and the evergreen tree continues. And then, of course, finally, summer. Summer are those rare times in our lives when we can touch our success. It's when we look out the window and go, you know, I think I like my car. Or it's all relative. I think I like my house, or I like the school my kids are going to, I like the savings account I have, I like the spirituality in which I've arrived at, that I'm nurturing every day, the intangible. It's when you can finally just touch your success, just by show of hands. How many of you feel like you're in fall right now, or you're just kind of letting go of some things? Raise your hand. Watch, some of you are going to raise your hand like 5 times, right? Okay. How many of you are in winter, or maybe right now it just feels a little cold, going through a tough time? Be honest, it's okay. How about spring? You're feeling some indicators, some hope coming out there. How about summer? Anybody in summer where they're touching things? Awesome. Great. Forevergreen is not a product. It's you and it's me. Like the evergreen tree, it's to embrace every second of every season of life. Always green, always growing. Today's ceiling is tomorrow's ground floor. You see, there's not one painting there in the context of this message that's more valuable than the other. They're the same. And the only thing permanent about these 4 paintings is change. That's it. It's the only thing permanent. So whatever season you're in, embrace it, because you're not going to move on to the next one until you do. If you're in winter and you're resisting winter, put on a coat. You're going to be there for a while, because what you resist will persist. So whatever it is, embrace whatever life is teaching you. And you go on to the next, and the next, and the next. And by the way, you might cycle through these multiple times throughout your life. And don't be surprised when you do. I think our company, or myself, the company, we went through a winter the last 10 months or so. And I remember saying to myself, who am I to resist winter? Whatever it is, embrace it, learn from it, become better for it, and move forward. That's it. Don't give it a lot of drama. Don't give it any more meaning than what it is. Take it exactly for what it is and move on, okay? And I'll tell you, thank goodness, because we're on to spring right now, and it feels fantastic, okay? So the thing about Forevergreen that's fun is when we opened our doors, this is kind of how we started. We had 21 employees. And a lot of people will ask about this message here. Is this about, it's not about the language we speak. It's not about the color of our skin. I just got back from Israel. Talk about a melting pot of different people and things and color, and belief and culture. Boy, are Israeli people expressive. Whew. I did a U of U, and I couldn't get the microphone back. Everybody was fighting over the microphone. There was about 500 people there, and it was crazy. It was a lot of fun. It was a blast, by the way. But it's not about the color of our skin, folks. It's not about the language we speak. It's not about our religious convictions. And people will say, is it about race? And I always say yes. And it's about the human race. And that's a brother and sisterhood that supersedes all societal limitations. It supersedes all media that they might throw at us, to divided us as human beings. If I never hear the word minority again, I will be completely satisfied and happy. If you are human, you're the majority. Period. Good, hate, violence, they have no color. We are people that belong together. And in the context of Forevergreen, we do everything we can to make that known, so none of us ever have to defend and apologize for who we are. Some of us defend so much who we are that we forget to be who we are. It's like religion. Some people defend their religion so much they forget to be it. There's no need to defend your color. There's no need to defend your beliefs. But there's every need and necessity to be those things, to be in your beauty. And that's what Forevergreen is about. It's an invitation to all to step into that. Something bigger than all of us, so none of us get in the way. It's not about ego. It's not about entitlement. It's not do me. But rather an indiscriminate culture that brings everybody together, a vision bigger than us. So that is Forevergreen. When we started, I wish I could tell you we exploded, but we didn't. There's a lot of companies out there that are like boy bands. They come to town, they sing their lottery songs, and then they leave. And they have no intention of being around for a decade or two. They're just singing a lottery song, pitching people, and that's all they're doing. They come and they go. And what happens is they hurt people. And all their behaviors are congruent. The way they start their business, the way they run their business, the way they're in their business, they're all the same. There's not one difference in the other, one from the other. In this company, we wanted to build a home, not a motel. We wanted to build a company that wasn't designed to impress our neighbors or our competitors. It was designed to impress our children. And the decision-making process are day and night when you do it that way. Perfect? Hell no. No, not perfect. But perfectly imperfect, yes. Perfectly designed to bring people together, to raise people to their highest self every day. To call you out to be great today. To call you out to be aware of your legacy and your purpose. To live something greater than what you've been living today over yesterday. So that's what Forevergreen is all about, guys. And the fun thing is many of you know, we've kind of got a very interesting product line, and lately we've added the Ketopia brand, and we're registering the Ketopia brand all around the world right now. Many of you know we have boots on the ground everywhere. And so we've been registering this product everywhere, and we've been using it. How many people have tried Ketopia here in the room, just by show of hands? Oh, well, that's a good sign. Dom, you got a pretty good audience today. Okay? Pretty tailored audience for today. So our whole belief is that health is a habit, it's not an event. If you want love, you look around you and see how many people set out to create and sustain their dreams, stepping over their health to get there. Hopeless, cynical, fearful survivors. Health is the platform to success. Health, sustainable success. Health is the platform to spirituality. Health is a platform to sustainable relationships. Health truly is the starting point for your life. It's the middle point. It's the ending point. It's everything to do with your life. And so what we try to do is we try to make health real. We don't think that the products cure anything. We think the body heals itself, and all the body needs is the proper raw materials. And talk about raw materials, this product line has an amazing combination of raw materials. So in closing, I will close by sharing with you just a little bit on the inspiration, because I feel compelled to share with you today. I had a young girl ask me one time, what is self-esteem? What is self-worth? And I didn't know exactly the answer because she caught me off guard and I was on a roll and I just said, it's what you think of yourself. And I went home that night and I kind of beat myself up on that answer. It wasn't an authentic answer. And I got to thinking, what is self-worth? What is self-esteem? And I really went deep into thought. And I'm not saying that I have the answer, I have an answer. When we're born and we're small children, we all dream without apology. Kids dream big and they don't doubt a single part of their dreams. There's not a single doubt. It's not till they get around us too long and they have their life experiences that they begin to allow their experiences to form their identity. And I hear people say, I'm a sad person, I'm a lonely person, I'm a fat person. No, you're a beautiful person. You just forgot. You're divine. You just forgot. And so we see a lot of people who talk about self-esteem and self-worth like it's a tattoo. That this person has a low self-esteem and this person has a high self-esteem. No, self-esteem and self-worth are a moving target. Would you agree? How come some days we wake up and we feel just amazingly priceless, more valuable than any political chair or any king's throne? It's because that's really who we are. And then how come some days we wake up and we feel worthless and we can't find our self-worth on this planet? So I got to thinking, these kids, their dreams, they're completely in their dreams when they're growing up. And then they start hitting teenagers, we start hitting teenage, young adult, college age, first job, whatever it is, many of us become separated from what we really want or who we really are. And when I talk about dreams, it's not Tooth Fairy or Easter Bunny, guys. It's your priceless life of your loving relationships, your business and career, your spirituality in your life, your physical health, your community health. A lot of people talk about the community, how much they hate the community, and they're doing nothing about it. How many of you are involved in your community? Raise your hand. Okay, great. So imagine being separated from your dreams and all of a sudden realizing today, wait a minute, I'm separated. I'm kind of breathing. I'm this person right here. I'm surviving. See, this person is looking for what? Motivation. They're looking for motivation. After a while, guys, it's like whipping a dead horse. So what if self-worth and inspiration were pretty similar? Where all of a sudden you redefine what your dreams are again today, tonight, before you go to bed. This is what I really want. This is who I truly am. Because when you're living your truth, the only successful you is the authentic you. The only sustainable you is the authentic you. Everything else is just kind of getting there. That's it. So what if getting there tonight was you defining again what your dreams are? Just being really clear about your profession and your career, what the things you want to achieve, and your relationships and how you want to design those relationships, and your spirituality, something bigger than you so you don't get in the way anymore. And then finally, something over here to do with your physical health. How does that look and feel to you? How's it held you back? Over here in your community, what are you going to do in your community to make a difference, big or small? Because every act counts. And all of a sudden, you redesign them and you start thinking about them. And naturally, you start talking about them. And then naturally, you start working inside of them. And then pretty soon, your results mirror your vision in your life. And these people, they light up like a Christmas tree. I couldn't say that in Israel. They light up like a tree. And they're like, huh?
A Hanukkah bush.
They light up like the 11 candles, but whatever it was. But I said, they just light up like a Christmas tree. And I said, and the world takes notice. Those are the people when you go to the airport, you see them walking, you're like, man, wherever you're going, I want to go with you. These are the people that people want to marry and make babies with and go into business with. And the party doesn't usually start until these folks show up right here. Some of you walked in this room and thought, oh, is this going to be any good today? And others walked in like, it's good now. Because you count what you bring into every room. You count the meeting you're sitting in and what you're making happen in that meeting. How many meetings have just happened? How many of you make meetings happen? What the result happens to be in that meeting because you're creating in that moment. Because you count who you are in that moment. You don't apologize. You don't hold yourself small. And some people wonder why the world holds them small. It's because they hold themselves small.
That's right.
That's it. So Forevergreen is about unapologetically stepping up and saying, It's good now. It's good now, and that's how we show up in this world. And by the way, this is how you do business. People love that. They want to work around that. They want what you have. So Forevergreen brings that to the table. It brings it to the conversation. It brings it to your business. And we have great goals as a company as well. We have great aspirations as a company. And all of this is not to substitute skill. God gives us talent. We make them a skill. And there's a lot of people who die riddled with talent and no skill. Okay? So this is a company where we say to you, become lethal at your profession. Become skilled and learned in your profession. And don't apologize for being skilled in your profession as well. They all go together as one. So with that, I just, send my support and blessing to today's meeting in hopes that the things that you're taught and shared with today, that they resonate with you. We're very blessed to have Dominic here with us today. He's going to bring a lot of great scientific information to us. I would encourage you to take notes and to tune in to the teachings of today, the business conversations, the product conversations, and everything in between, because again, you're in the room. What will you create in today's room? So I would just say to you, thank you so much for having me today. In spite of my jet lag, I really am delusional right now. But I would say welcome to Forevergreen, folks. Welcome home. It's my privilege. Thank you.
Ron, dude. And that's after 30 hours in the air, traveling. Dude, thank you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
No kidding aside, bro. It's right here. That's why we're here. One of the things that he said back in January of 2014 after he did his presentation in a little bit more detail than he did today. And the room, I didn't belong in the room, by the way. I'll be honest with you. Jim and I both got invited to that room. Did we belong in that room? No. Kathy Humphreys belonged in that room. Other people that belonged there. We didn't belong there. We just, by the grace of God, were in there. And he looked around that room. I mean, there were people in there collectively. They probably had $100 million worth of earnings collectively. Jim and I were just a tad short of that. He got done as the CEO of this company after putting his heart out there in front of all these big hitters. And he very humbly said, if what I've shared with you today resonates with your heart, welcome home. And if it doesn't, that's okay. We love you anyway. This is not for you. And that closed the door on me. Krista and I could not get on the phone fast because she wasn't with me, unfortunately. I could not get on the phone fast enough to tell her that we were home. And I'm going to tell you, brother, we appreciate everything that you're doing for this company and this team. We are in the right place at the right time. I'm telling you right now. All right. Next up on the agenda, very quickly, y'all, when Krista and I got involved in the company, we called this couple first because we knew that if they saw it and they got involved, it was a home run. You guys that have been with us from the get-go, that have been in this town, frankly, not even in this town, other states, they've become celebrities. I mean, really. I mean, and the irony behind all of it, that's the last thing they were looking for. I can tell you the very first home meeting we did, well, it was a special night. I just put it that way. But listen, Chris and I are blessed to call them friends. We're all blessed to have them in the Forevergreen family. If y'all would please stand up and give a wonderful welcome to Jim and Charlotte Reynolds.